Hello everybody, welcome back to another little fun video we're going to do on ForgeServ, which is my 1.10.2 mod server. Today I'm thinking about getting a Thermalily mana farm set up, so I'm just going to grab a few things that I need to get started with Botania, and we're going to hop on over. So with my runic altar and a mana spreader put down, maybe a little bit too far, we'll find out later, not a big problem though. We'll go ahead and get everything together that we want to get together for getting our Thermalily setup going. So I'm just going to toss together some stuff here, and we can take a look at the Thermalily recipe. Looks like it'll use a rune of fire. So let me grab some gunpowder to get some of that mana dust taken care of, and grab some coal and refuel my endo flame so that we can get some more going. So here I actually end up making a funny mistake. My magnet's on, so we'll take it off, put it away for a little while, and come back to it later whenever we need it. I made another mistake right here though, as you're about to watch me completely fail. I'm going to toss in some gunpowder, but first I'm going to get rid of this rubber. So the rubber trees here are just sitting around from IC2. I decided I don't really need them, so I got my axe out and basically chopped them down, and we'll get to them later about replanting them somewhere else, because they weren't really fit for this area anyways. So I'm just going to knock these out, see about moving them somewhere else maybe, and we'll come back to it. But yeah, as you're going to see here in just a few minutes, you know, this setup works out pretty well for me as far as making plenty of mana, but first I gotta of course get it all set up, so hopefully you guys will enjoy this. So here I made a super big derp. I turned all my gunpowder into flint because there's an alchemy catalyst underneath my mana pool. So let me get rid of that, try that again, maybe this time without so much derp, and get the powder that we're actually looking for. We'll come back to putting that alchemy catalyst off camera, because that was my fault. I completely forgot to. So that gets us what we needed there, so let me just take a look at the recipe real quick and get some more of the stuff we need. Alright, so I have this clever little pure daisy setup here that you can see. I used the builder's wand to place down the blocks for me. And here we'll go ahead and grab the last of the recipes here, or last of the ingredients in the recipe, toss them down on the runic altar, and make all of our ingredients. Here I'm taking a look at the earth rune recipe as well, grabbing everything I need for it. And hopefully that should do it. So let's get the rest of these crafted up, and I'll meet you on the other side when we're ready to go. Alright, we have everything together. So finally, I think we just need to make sure we get the right petals together. So it's going to use 2 orange and 1 red per recipe. I have this cool little setup for getting water refilled by hand, but still pretty handy. And basically the secret here is I just toss all the seeds that I'm going to need, and it works out just fine for me. So here's the last of them. And go through and get all 16 of these Thermalilies all at once. All I have to do is sit there, right-click with a water bucket to refill it, right-click with an empty hand to redo the recipe, and the seeds sitting on top will automatically catalyze the recipe and get me my output without me having to stand there and spam Q 8,000 times, because it's not really convenient. And grab all these up, and then we're gonna go get some tall grass. Now the tall grass here is actually going to be used for making floating flower variant of the Thermalilies. So this is going to be used for the pasture seed part of the floating glimmering flower recipe, and then we'll move on. After we get that, we'll actually be able to turn the floating glimmering flower into a floating Thermalily. Let me just toss these in the mana pool, get some pasture seeds, go ahead and grab some normal flowers. I only keep petals around because normally that's all I ever need, and you can actually replenish your supply of petals. And grab some purple ones too, and get some gray ones as well from earlier, just sitting out behind my house. And now that we've got those, we'll make those floating flowers I was talking about. I accidentally made one more than I needed to, but that's okay. We'll go ahead and get all of the floating Thermalilies put together, grab an ender tank with a diamond so that I can go ahead and get this synced up to my right lava frequency. We'll grab an ender IO tank to automatically fill and empty the buckets, or rather fill them. I guess we aren't emptying. We'll grab some item conduits. We're going to make about 8 bows here because we have 16 Thermalilies, so we'll need 8 dispensers. So just this is where I'm taking a minute to stop and think. So here we go. We've got 8 going. We'll grab the 8 dispensers. And we'll get going with some item filters as well so that we can go ahead and sort all of this stuff out just right. Because we're going to need to sort either the input or the output, it's just easier to sort the output from my experience. So we'll go ahead and get these filters crafted up too. The paper from my sugarcane farm that I'll show you guys at some point is pretty cool. But Here we go. I also forgot to grab a pressurized fluid conduit just in case. I actually ended up not needing this, but it's always safer. Better to be safe than sorry. Here you can see me digging out the little hole I'm going to do for this. I'm going to build this underground because it's kind of hard to keep this pretty above ground. I got a little distracted with some other stuff later down the road, so I ended up forgetting about that and coming back to what I was doing in the first place. So we're going to pick some chiseled glass here. I think I like this stuff the best. Using the eye chisel, you can visualize how all of it looks. And we'll go and start placing down our dispensers vertically, and you know, there'll be a short interruption in just a second to go take a nap. But yeah, ideally, I got a little bit distracted. I've been short on iron at this point of the video, or at this point in the recording sessions and whatnot. So let me take a snooze real quick. I actually take several, but I decided to keep this one in. Now that we're done, we'll come down here, and I forgot about one crucial part, and that's to get a timer. So let me get everything together for that. There are other ways of doing a timer. If we had computer craft, we could do that. I don't think we do. I think I kept that off because it crashes you sometimes. But we'll just grab a normal RF tools timer and some redstone conduit, because I forgot about that. I needed to make just a little bit more here, so grab some of that, and hopefully that should be the last of everything we need. So we'll put down the last 3 dispensers, get the last of the glass put up here as well. So we'll go ahead and toss up these thermalilies a little bit just to kind of start visualizing kind of where these are going to go. So they're going to go on the corners because they can actually consume the lava diagonally. And so there's a little bit of a common setup here between these and the goodness, what are they called? Hydrangeas. The hydrangeas are, and I'm saying it weird because I'm pretty sure they're spelled differently, but the hydrangeas are pretty specifically cool for some passive generation, but it does take a while to make anything of substantial amounts from those. And I'm not sure if they still decay or not. I think at some point it was decided that they were supposed to decay, so that's why I like this Thermalily setup. It really only uses, or only has to use, Botania, Vanilla, Minecraft, and Ender IO. The Ender Tanks mod really makes it helpful for getting your lava. Like I have a 2x2 lava setup in the Nether to get me lava from the gigantic pools. So it really just depends on how you decide you'd like to set it up. But you know, you don't have to use an RF tools timer. You could use a vanilla timer, although that would be kind of difficult. I maybe would suggest a hopper timer instead of one of the normal repeater style timers, because you need a very, very, very long delay. Like I said, the Ender Tanks mod makes it really easy, but Ender IO is a must-have for getting the items in and out of these hoppers, or in and out of these dispensers, and also really makes it very, very easy for refilling your bucket as well, which you will see hopefully in just a few minutes. I'll show you guys how I'm going to manage to refill these. So let me get this conduit set up here. We're going to do black for the output being an empty bucket, and red for the input being a full of lava bucket. We're going to extract on always active mode, and I'm going to just take my conduit probe and paste the settings in across all of these conduit connectors, because there's going to, of course, be a lot of wasted time if I didn't end up doing this. So go ahead and toss in the filters. It took me a second to figure out how I wanted to set this up, but we're going to do the filters on extract mode, and just have them extracting empty buckets. Now on this very last dispenser at the very bottom, I actually set it up wrong. I set it up to filter the insert, and I'll find that out in just a minute and fix that. But just, you know, don't try to copy what I'm doing exactly and think, oh, the bottom one needs to be different. It was an accident. More iron, always getting me distracted, but it's pretty important for me, so we'll fill this back in real quick, because I don't actually need that much space back behind here, fortunately. So we're going to toss our fluid tank down. The fluid tank is going to do all the mystery of filling and emptying our bucket. We'll put an ender tank on the top of it and have it pull from the ender tank, which has our lava. And this will get us our sustainable lava source. Not infinite. I would call it sustainable. And so now we'll just route some item conduits over to this tank. I know that sounds a little bit unintuitive, but that actually is how it works. You can route fluid conduits too, but if you do an item conduit, then it'll input and output into the bucket slots, which is super helpful. So we'll insert on black and output on red, because we're inserting empty buckets and outputting full ones. And we want round robin mode enabled. If we have it disabled, then we will have all of our buckets going to one dispenser. But if it's enabled, even without a speed downgrade, because they are just buckets and they only stack at one, it's important to be sure to have everything together for that. So having it like this, we don't have to actually set up any filters on the tank because it's only extracting on certain filters anyways. So we'll put these buckets in one of the dispensers to test the filter. It extracted them, it put them in, and you'll see it'll start going through all the dispensers and giving each one of them 1 bucket of lava. The very last one gets 2 for some reason, and actually that's because of the issue that I caused here in just a minute with the insert modes, or the insert mode being filtered. Once I figured that out, I quickly grabbed it and moved it over, as you're about to see. And there we go. That's a little better. So we'll hook up the Redstone Conduit. This is the last amount that I have left, and we're going to go ahead and get the timer down. Now, I did a little bit of calculation based on how the cooldown is. I found that 3600 ticks was a good time because each endo flame cools down for 5 minutes, I want to say. There was some major calculation going on there, and then taking into account the fact that not all endo flames will be activated at the same time, it kind of spaces it out. So I'm going to make some mana pools here too, so that we obviously have a place for everything to go here. I've already got the mana spreaders, and so we'll just go ahead and start here. I have a little bit of a difficulty with the CAD shooting the conjured light blocks a little bit when I don't want it to, but there's, as annoying as it is, it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do, and there's nothing we can really do about it. So I forgot that I should probably get some phantom lenses set up for the 2 mana spreaders I'm about to put down here in a minute. The phantom lenses are pretty helpful because you can make them shoot mana through a solid block. I believe there is a cost of a small marginal amount of that mana, but as long as you're doing it only through 1 block, I found that it really doesn't make that big of a detriment to your mana profits. So here I'm just taking a break to go smelt up some clay. I actually never showed you what I do with the clay in this video, but you'll see it sooner or later. I like using lime green hardened clay in my Botania builds because it looks a little bit like grass, but it does have a more refined taste. It's almost like sod. So I'm just go ahead and grab my obedience rod. This was not a good idea because by doing this I actually overloaded my mana spreader such in a way that it could not transport mana quick enough. So, and it was also choosing one mana spreader more than the other. So after this video I actually went through and changed these all to go I manually bound 8 of the Thermalilies to one mana spreader and the other 8 to another one to make sure that everything was evenly distributed, and that way no one mana spreader had more work than the other, and it really thoroughly avoids the issue of bottlenecking on the ability of the mana spreader itself. So we're going to go ahead and fill the rest of this in. I do like this to look good. It doesn't technically have to. You could put this all underground and not let it see the light of day ever again, and it would work just fine, but I like to make things a little bit pretty. I've built something similar to this several times. This is just kind of the way I do automated mana. I love Botania. I use it a lot, but it's one of those things that I only use for certain specific things. It's not one of those things that I go through. It's not one of those mods that I go through and play sort of, as some would say, 100% style, where I go through and do every single thing in it and, you know, blah, 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 blah. I play it just because there's a few specific items that I really like. I do like the different sashes. I'm very fond of the varieties of sashes that are added by, or added as baubles by Botania, and I really like the armor too. I like Terra Steel armor pretty substantially. So I'm going to go ahead and plop down these mana pools, and you'll see that the spreaders instantly get to work shooting through that one block. And this is actually the completed setup here. So all in all, it's one of those setups that I'm pretty proud of, and you can see the end product is relatively functional already. I don't actually catch it in action much more than this, but I think that's just about it.